What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Welcome to another episode of the Excellent Adventures. These are the Excellent Adventures of BZefra. And if you're wondering what the heck that is, because I even couldn't figure it out at first, I was like, wait, why the heck would you want to combine these archetypes? What exactly is this deck? BZefra is a Zefra variant that involves a bunch of cards from the Buster Blader archetype, and you kind of get the best of the both worlds. For starters, obviously, Zefra and Buster Blader are both synchro based. Well, Buster Blader has some fusions, but both of them like the synchro, and that works really well when you have a card like Oracle the Zefra, because obviously you get to stack your deck. I've always thought that Buster Blader worked naturally well with pendulum decks, because sometimes if you have those Buster Bladers in your hand, you can't get them onto the field easily, so being able to pendulum summon obviously really works. And then one of the things that Buster Blader sometimes kind of struggles with is it gets those really good strong fields of like the Buster Blader fusion monster, and then maybe you get like the Buster Dragon, but you need to be able to protect that from like spell effects. The monster effects are not going to be a problem at that point, and running Zefra, you get so many defensive options. Like you get those really good counter traps cards like the 9 branches of the Yang Zings, which yes, it is a Yang Zing card, but obviously you can run it in Zefra. You also get the Zefra Divine Strike, so it actually gives you a lot of lockdown when you combine these two archetypes together. But I think it's better to show you guys than to tell you guys, so let's just go ahead and roll this. And I believe all of these matches are against competitive decks, maybe not like the highest tier Zodiac and whatnot, but it is against good decks. And one of the great things about running Zefra is you get so much searchability, because you have Zefra Providence and you have the Oracle of Zefra, and you know he activates the Zephraf. He's gonna pendulum summon 3. He is playing against Dino Miss, which they did pretty good at YCS Pittsburgh. It made day 2 and whatnot. Didn't make top 16 or top 32, but it did make day 2. So you look at his opening board. It's not the most impressive opening board, but the thing about Zefra is you're basically just trying to survive one turn, as he has his Chow Fang, and he's going to activate the 9 branches to get rid of, I believe, the Dino Miss charge. That would be the card that I would want to get rid of. But as long as you can sustain your board for one turn, obviously you can use Zephraf. You can constantly make advantage by throwing monsters to your extra deck and then pendulum summoning them. So he's going to negate the Dino Miss charge, which is a card that is definitely going to set Dino Miss back. Now, he is going to lose his Supreme King card, or this is the Supreme King Servant. What's it called? Darker Worm? Okay, I can't pronounce that damn name, but he's gonna lose it to the Dino Miss because it's gonna get banished. But it doesn't matter, because if his opponent can't actually stop the pendulum summon or the Zephraf effect, you can see how you can get a massive pendulum summon off with the Stardust Charge Warrior plus the Oracle of Zefra. You get to stack your deck, and then you get to draw that card immediately, and that's how he's able to get his Buster Blader on the field. I believe he's going to make Buster Dragon. Yeah, he's gonna make the Buster Dragon here. Then he's gonna go into the fusion. He is going to get rocked, I believe, by the Quaking Mirror Force. But if you're not able to like capitalize off of that, like Dino Miss right here, because if Dino Miss don't have their pendulum skills, it's kind of tough sledding, I guess. If they don't have their pendulum skills, it can be really difficult. A pendulum deck like this is just going to eventually overwhelm you. You see he tries to activate his Dino Miss Howling. That gets negated by the 9 branches, and you can see how the Dino Miss player has never actually been able to get off the ground. Every time he tries to do one of his, or he tries to get his pendulum scales set up with charge or with Howling, his opponent has that counter trap answer, and even after a Quaking Mirror Force, it just doesn't matter. Now, he played the Master Pendulum, and I believe he responded with the Supreme King Gate 0, which it didn't even matter, because if you notice, he didn't even need to destroy these pendulum scales. They are both and they're actually both 3 scales, so it's not like he was going to pendulum summon with 2 3 scales. And just look at the board at the end of the game. Not to mention, he also had a Zefra Divine Strike that he would have been able to use potentially to get rid of the Master Pendulum had he wanted to do that as well. So look at the following board, and you'll see that obviously that was just a duel where he's able to outgrind his opponent. Let's see against Fluffles how this is going to fare. And another cool thing is, since this deck naturally runs fusions, this is one of the only decks that can actually just pendulum summon you know, a lot of its Ghost Ogres and Ash Blossoms, big forehead chick, and actually use them for synchro summons for monsters like the oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the Stardust Charge Warrior. Most decks just use them for the defensive effects, and you don't really see anybody synchro summon with the what's it called, with Ghost Ogre or Ash Blossom, but you actually might see it in this deck. So I don't know about using Ghost Ogre on Toy Vendor though. He's using it on Toy Vendor. Your opponent's gonna kind of plus here, and I actually don't think, yeah, he can't respond to the Fluffle Tiger effect, as a Tiger was Chain Link 1 and then the Penguin was Chain Link 2. You actually can't negate that Tiger effect. That's very smart of Fluffle players to do that, but the thing is, if you don't kill this Zefra deck, like look at the pendulum summoning that you're going to get. He's actually going to go after his back row. At that point, he gets rid of the Mirror Force, and he's kind of able to do whatever he wants. And even without the Pendulum Summon, he can still make a really big board. You see he has 9 branches. He has the Zefra War, which is another good defensive card, and I believe that's probably going to take out the Fright for Wolf, which that's all you care about. Fright for Wolf is a card that OTKs you. You don't really give two craps about Tiger, because you can just kind of Pendulum Summon and make these big boards and kind of deal with Tiger that way. Like, eventually you'll be able to get over it. So he's going to go for starters Charge Warrior again under Oracle of Zefra. Lets him stack his deck for the Buster Well. I believe he's going Utopia the Lightning here. Yeah, that's just an easy out, and looks like he's going to play. Okay, I thought he was going to activate the copy of Oracle of Zefra. Looks like he is not. He is going to go into Buster Dragon. No, I think his opponent ended up scooping at this point. He just saw the writing on the wall, because I'm pretty sure he was going to go into Buster Dragon, and then he was going to revive the copy of Buster Blader, but I think the Fluffle player realized that all he had was one copy of Tiger, and that probably wasn't going to be able to do anything, because at the very least, he was going to lose his Tiger, and he was going to lose a whole bunch of life points. And he did have yet another counter trap. So it's like almost every single turn with this deck, you're going to have some type of Infernity Barrier to basically stop what your opponent wants to do. That's the really good thing about this deck. And just being able to rely on the multiple win conditions that this deck has, because you get to run 2 different archetypes, is very, very convenient, because sometimes you might actually win through the Buster Blade or Lockdown, being able to get the Destruction Swordsman plus the Buster Dragon, locking your opponent out of all monster effects. And then in other duels, you might just need to outgrind your opponent with the Pendulum Summon and all the advantage that that can provide with the Zefra cards. And then you have the counter traps to kind of back you up. So it's like different win conditions against different opponents. You're going to see a different one here. This is just kind of like the lockdown that you get with the Buster Blader cards. And you know, he's setting up for the turn 1 Denlong, obviously, that gives him the ability to use that 9 branches in his hand, which, you know, is kind of like a failsafe against anything. And you see against a deck like Domain Monarchs, where they don't have that many ways to disrupt your plays, he's going to activate the copy of the Prolong of the Destruction Swordsman. Then he's going to activate the Memories in his graveyard, and that's going to get him the Destruction Swordsman, the Fusion Monster. And once you get Buster Dragon plus Destruction Swordsman, all your opponent's monster effects are basically rest in pepperonis at that point. His opponent only had 1 out to this board, obviously that being the Monarch Stormforth, but when you've got a billion different counter traps that you can run, your opponent is not going to be able to rely on just 1 card outing your board, because if he didn't have 9 branches, he probably would have had a Zefra Divine Strike or something like that, which obviously would have been online as well. So he's going to negate the Stormforth, and his opponent just kind of looks at the board and he's like, you know, I think I'm just going to scoop, because every monster that his opponent is going to summon is going to get put in defense mode. None of their monster effects are going to be able to activate, and then the Destruction Swordsman gets piercing damage on everything. So it's like, why even play at that point? You know what I mean? Like, Domain is not going to save you at that point when your opponent already has the Destruction Swordsman, and you clearly can't kill it because you won't be able to Erebus, you won't be able to Karaj. So, you know, that's just one of the duels where you get the lock of the Buster Blader, and it's just, you know, pretty much over at that point. This duel is going to be against iframes. I would imagine that this is going to have to be a long duel. Like, no one ever beats iframes really quickly, so this will probably be a little bit of a grindy game. And he does run the Zark cards in here. He does run the what's it called, the Dragon's Ravine, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't think that, like, I think this guy misplayed playing iframes. I don't think he should have used Alpha, like, because the thing about iframes is, like, when you use your first card, if you use Alpha, like, you get the Surge, and that's cool and everything, but then you can't summon any other monsters. Also, I think the biggest problem with iframes is, if you don't have Circuit on the board, dude, you're just not doing anything. Like, you have no ways of, like, kind of disrupting your opponent's plays. You see right here, he has the Chao Feng, and if you get Chao Feng with Light, what is your opponent going to do with iframes? Like, you can't do anything at that point. Your opponent's not going to be able to use any Light cards, and the entire entire Psyframe deck is light. So you see, obviously, he's just been locked out of the game. Can't really do anything. The guy's just going to continue to pendulum summon, and now he's just stacking up his counter traps. Even if he somehow finds out, like, look at the back row that he had. This is all done by the second turn. I mean, he has Zephyr Divine Strike and then 2 copies of the 9 branches. That's basically 3 Infernity Barriers, guys. Like, you have not been able to play 3 Infernity Barriers in years, and yet this deck can do it easily within the first couple of turns. And he had already been locked out of kind of like light monsters, so, you know, obviously the entire Psyframe deck is light, so what are you going to do about that? This one's against Shiranui, which obviously, I have a lot of respect for Shiranui. I think that even without grass, I still think it's a very solid deck. It is a little bit Shiranui Sage / Unizombie or bust for my taste. I feel like if you don't get those cards, you're not really doing that much, but obviously, you know, he opened with a bunch of copies, and it just dawned on me that the what's it called? The BZefra player has gone first in every single duel, so obviously that might taint some of these replays, but hey, don't nobody pay attention to that. You see right there, he's going to get his Buster Dragon with his trap, and he has, what, 2 9 branches and a Zephyr Divine Strike, so I don't know how much Yu-Gi-Oh! This guy's going to be playing. Actually, it doesn't even matter. He tries to go into Black Rose Dragon. Let me just show you guys. This would have been a really good play. Wow, duel's already over. Doesn't even matter. This would have been a really good play as he's going for Black Rose Dragon against that many back row, but when he has the ability to go into Buster Dragon plus Destruction Swordsman, like the first turn, obviously Black Rose Dragon is not going to do anything because it can't activate its effect, but let's say hypothetically he wasn't even able to get the Destruction Swordsman or the Buster Dragon on field, it just wouldn't have mattered. Like, he had 9 branches, and a Zephyr Divine Strike. That's another duel with turn 1, like 3 Infernity Barriers. What are you going to do against that? Like, I don't even think Zodiac would be able to play through a board like that, because like, even if you have a Kaiju, even if you have Interrupted Slumber plus the Black Rose play, like, it's still not going to get through when you have 3 copies of Infernity Barrier and they're all alive. Like, some of your cards are just not going to be able to do their thing, and then if you don't crack the Pendulum Scales, your opponent is just going to play Zephraf's effect. They're going to throw another card in their extra deck, and they're just going to massively Pendulum Summon against you, and if you try and use Strike on the Pendulum Summon, then, you know, they still have their Infernity Barriers to counter that. Let's see what the last duel is. This one's against True King. So again, these are against meta decks, not like the highest level of meta, but, you know, these are all competent meta decks. So this is a True King. Is this True King or True Draco? Because he has the, like, True Draco cards in his hand. I'm not sure if which version this is. It's been about maybe 4 days since I've watched these replays, but I guess we'll find out when he does his turn or whatever. Once again, starts off with a Pendulum Summon, and I don't think that this deck should be taken as like super competitive or anything, because again, every one of these duels he did actually go first, which if you ever take this to a competitive event, don't expect to go first every time. But I would imagine if you just played some Twin Twisters that you probably wouldn't have to, like, going second probably wouldn't hurt you all that much. You know, maybe you throw in a couple of Twin Twisters, a couple of Forbidden Lances, something like that. His opponent tries to go for Dragonic Diagram. Obviously, that's not going to happen, as he's basically going to use the 9 branches on that. Then he tries to activate another card. That's going to get hit with 9 branches. And I think he's going to go for the Destruction Swordsman Buster Dragon play, which wasn't even really needed. Even when he tries to go for the Terraforming to get another diagram, Big Forehead Chick just says, nope, I'm going to be the only person playing Terraforming this duel. So much searchability in this deck because you have Providence plus you have Oracle of Zephyr, man. There's like so many different rotas that you can have. Now, he does get his Pendulum Summon Strike, but it just honestly doesn't matter because he already has his Destruction Swordsman on field. Stardust Charge Warrior is there, and once you're able to keep Zephraf on the field during your next turn, you can just throw more cards into your extra deck anyways, which I assume he's probably going to do. I would just have to imagine. Another cool thing is obviously being able, since you have scale zeros, being able to Pendulum Summon the little Buster Bladers, the level 1 tuners, is just really, really nice. So this is a duel where I guess we won't even figure out if it was True Kings or True Dracos. It says True Kings. I have to go back and look at the deck, but it honestly didn't matter because we never even saw one monster in that last duel. He just kind of got overwhelmed. The only real drawback is the fact that Destruction Swordsman cannot attack directly. If he could, this duel obviously would have been over a lot quicker. But those are the Excellent Adventures of BZefra. Go first every single duel and you'll pretty much be undefeated. because there's too much lockdown potential with this deck, and there are so many counter traps to basically back up your lockdown potential, make it so your opponent can never get out of that. If you guys are interested in playing the deck, if you guys just want to mess around with it, it will be in the description of this video. I'll have the download file there, and then I'll have a picture of the deck for those of you guys who don't want to download it. Anyways, thank you guys for watching as always, and subscribe if you have not already.